Hello, guys. Welcome to the Pride Rock Show. I'm very excited to have you today for our very first episode. It's the beginning of a journey where we're going to deep dive into everything The Lion King related. Today, we have a very special guest. His name is Vega, and he's an animator. He worked on the Lion Guard series, so I'm pretty sure he has a lot of insight and awesome experiences to share with us. So, welcome to the show, Vega. How are you?
Pleasure to be here. Thank you. I'm doing well.
That's nice. That's nice to hear, man. I'm gonna start by asking you, why did you choose animation as a career?
I chose animation in later in my life. I became inspired when I was little. When I first owned a PlayStation, my brother and I used to own a bunch of demo discs, and one of them had a interview about how they made Spyro, and I found it so inspiring that a group of people could come together and just make their dreams come true in terms of what they thought of and put it into a game and put it on paper and all that. Inspired me to be something like that, to be a part of making art, and so I started painting when I was 16. And I was really into like Sonic. My influences back then were like, lots of Sonic the Hedgehog. I grew up on Sonic, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, so all those types of characters, and of course I watched all the Disney movies and all that. Up until college, I was looking for a place to come to Ottawa. So I live in Montreal in Canada. So in Ottawa, it wasn't that much going on, and the only reason why I found a place to go to the school there was because of my ex-girlfriend, who was moving there, and I had to find something to do in Ottawa. And I found this school at Algonquin College, which had an amazing demo reel for animation. They had an incredible team and teachers. So I decided I was going to go, and very last minute I got an acceptance letter. And so on that very weekend, I was supposed to find a place to live, to move out of the city, and to get a loan. So that happened really, really fast. And lo and behold, that's how I got my first job, which was Lion Guard. And from there on out, that's how I became an animator.
That's pretty cool. We all have certain inspirations when we decide to follow a professional path or a career. Pretty cool how everything just started to work out. It's pretty awesome that your first gig was actually like in the big leagues. Being Disney, being a big franchise that is the Lion Guard and the Lion King in general, like very beloved by lots of people, lots of fans around the world. And what kind of habits help you develop your skills as an animator?
Well, when I got into the studio, which was Mercury Filmworks, we're taught like at our school to basically rely and be to study references, because references is what gives us basically the backbone on how we can look at movement, acting, and wildlife, because we were dealing with animals, right? So animals in Africa and all that. So we had a whole library of old footages that Disney used that we had access to, as well as some of the animators who worked on the movie came by to our studio. We had one of the animators who did Timon and Pumbaa to show us in drawings of like how a character should be acting, and how he drew Timon. And we were all like with our animation papers drawing at the same time while he's teaching us, and we're all just like trying to draw Timon, which was funny. And basically, like a lot of the disciplines come from our principles, what we learn about the principles of animation. So we would take these characters and apply with the references that we have, and we would try to train an eye for having subtle acting, because in this show they're quadrupeds, they're not bipeds, so we had to improvise and basically like concentrate all of our efforts within the subtle acting. So that's a lot of those disciplines and habits that we've collected over time. And of course, as as artists and animators, in our in between time, we're drawing and painting Lion King characters. We were all so wrapped into this show that every single person was passionate to work on it.
As they say, the greatness of things is usually on the small details because, well, especially in animation, you really have to get that realistic feel to the movements, to the expressions of the characters. Otherwise, the animation becomes like dull or stiff. And well, honestly, The Lion Guard is one of the most impressive animations I've ever seen. And well, even more, it being a television show, which of course it has less budget. That's pretty much why I got so impressed by the quality of the characters' movements, the landscapes, overall, all of the artistic side of the series. Honestly, I think it's what stands the most of it, like in general. Referencing is pretty much a mandatory habit to anyone getting in like the visual arts and well even more to animators. It is tough to get that right, to get the movement to look real and not like uncanny. Well, was there a particular character you enjoyed animating the most and why?
I would say it's a cross between Bunga and Kion, but probably Bunga the most, because he had the most freedom that we could have. Animating quadrupeds, you're more limited because quadrupeds, they don't gesture out with their hands, so you have to figure out like more subtle ways, which is with like facial expressions, or the way they enunciate certain words, and or keep up with certain beats. But Bunga basically was a sort of like a free for all. You could gesture with your hands and also use all his wild expressions. And I think he also was like a contrast between Kion and the rest. Pretty much everyone else in the group, because Bunga was so energetic that it fit with this character for him to be a biped character. So he would come into the crowd with all this energy, and everyone, like you have everybody else sort of like dealing with it, but at the same time, they love him very much. So one of my favorite sequences of animated with Bunga is in the music number of on the first episode of Zukuzama. It was so much fun. I remember we had everyone at the studio gushing over like just the small subtleties that like Bunga would just be basically singing and dancing and jumping around. And we had like a number of scenes that got cut out, unfortunately, because of due to time. But we had so much to work with that basically they had everyone went rain on for Kion. And because we were the software that we were using, I believe that Bunga had the most available that you could use to stretch out his potential as an animator. So yeah, I would have to say it would be Bunga for sure.
That's fun because I mean, of course, he's got like these very human-like movements. As you said, he just tends to jump around pretty much like a little kid, a little human kid, sort of.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, he's like very expressive. He's pretty crazy. I mean, some people even kind of hate the character, which I don't agree with. Of course, I think he's pretty fun. He's full of life. He's always like so optimistic and carefree as well. So I bet it was a heck of a time just fiddling with his movements and all of that.
Yeah, I think the studio's favorite was Bunga because of some of the some of the things he would say or do. I think one of my favorite episodes is when Bunga finds out he's not immune and that he could die, but the whole time he's just oblivious and just, you know, getting away with a bunch of stuff, and his friends are just like, oh man, like he's not gonna get it, but so
You always jump in just when things are getting fun. Fun?
yeah, no, I started off from the beginning of the show, which was in 2015, after the pilot. So I got to work on it from the beginning on, and so I got to see the evolution of Bunga and the other characters. Kion was obviously one would everyone would love to animate because he is basically like, you know, you're kind of animating Simba, young Simba, just with a, you know, a nice fancy hairdo. But and I was okay with that, you know, because like I was never really into the Lion King crowd before I came into Bunga, you know, like back in the Demon Art days. But when I started to come on towards the show, I think I've drewn more Kion than I ever had with any Lion King character, just so that I can nail down the expression and in certain poses that, you know, to sort of capture the character's essence. We also had James Baxter, who worked on The Lion King, who came to our studio. Very, very, you know, gracious of him to show us all of his secrets and all that.
Oh no, Mufasa. Perhaps you shouldn't turn your back on me.
I think shortly after the first season, we were also getting like pointers from Glenn Keane, who we all know he's like a legend for Disney and whatnot.
There's emotion to it, and they're carried along by that, and that's exactly how I'm animating it. I'm not counting the drawings. I'm just feeling the emotion, the purpose, the intent of what I'm animating.
So to hear any pointers from this guy was amazing. And so our studio had very close ties towards the studios, all the people that got to work in Lion King. So Bunga and all the other characters, we would all make our own iterations. We would even have in our office, when we're like talking in our DMs and whatnot, we would make all these like meme pictures of Bunga and all the other characters. And it was also funny because like we had to like, it was sort of like an inside joke within the studio that we just couldn't do. Like these pictures would never reach the to the public at all. But it was funny to have like that inside joke kind of deal. And that was the culture that was like when we were working on the show.
That's pretty fun, man. Having like those Disney legends, like some sort of mentors for you, it must have been like so enriching, like to learn from them, like from the very inside. I think the Bunga thing is pretty fun because, well, he's pretty likable, to be honest. I don't really get the hate he got when the show first came out. I think people have learned to value him more because, well, he offers a lot as a character, and he's arguably like the most expressive character of the entire show through all the 3 seasons. Like he moves his hands just like a human will do. He's just like pretty malleable, so to speak. That's pretty fantastic. And how did you approach animating the musical sequences in the show? Because it must be like a whole other level of difficulty on that matter.
Well, when it came to studying a scene, they would give us the storyboards, and we would all watch the entire episode up front in storyboard mode, and to get a general sense of how the episode is going to feel. And so we incorporate that in our planning. And so when we watch the storyboard all together, because we do it as a group, we all spark ideas in terms of how we're going to approach the scene together. So sometimes I would have a scene that would connect to another person's scene, and sometimes I would have to talk to the other person and say, so I'm going to do this kind of thing, and this is how the character's going to, turn and whatnot. And they'll have to take that pose from that last scene, and then they continue off or whatever. But when it came to like musical beats and all that. It was all up to the artist's imagination to sort of fill in, which is the fun part, as an animator. The best part of my job is to see the scene in the way that I would see it, while at the same time accommodating the original vision of what the team has come up with their pre-production and all that, to give to us and say, okay, this is generally what we want out of the scene. You kind of fill in the rest. And that's, I remember one animation mentor said something along the lines where the animator lives in the in-betweens, right? Because back then they used to have animation was done by multiple departments, where they had a very trained animator to work on the major keys, and then they had the in-betweeners, and the in-betweeners, they just basically they do all the grunt work for the head guys. So they would have to find creative ways to basically make the character feel alive and whatnot. And so in a music sequence, we're given more liberty in that end, and so we bounce off ideas and we test them out, and usually it all goes smoothly as it did. We had like I said, we had a very passionate team to work on the show, and I remember I didn't get to work on the second a music single for the first episode, but I remember I was so inspired by it, I actually made my own painting of it. So we were all just sort of like taking it in as fans, and also as animators and artists, to appreciate what was being made, and that's how we pretty much approached all the work in Line Guard.
There has to be passion in everything we do. That can be seen pretty clearly in the show, because when many people work in one project, each one of them put a little piece of themselves in it, and then all of that combined, if done with passion, it delivers a great product, which is the case. I can definitely see that everyone has to be doing their tasks, their job, like in a perfectly synchronized way in order to have something that makes sense in the end. You guys definitely achieved that. The art you're talking about is the one you showed me already, the Yanja one, I think.
Yeah, the We Will Strike Tonight. They called up as the name. Tonight We Strike, that was it.
Tonight we strike, no one's safe, so the time is right. The circle of...
And how is like the process of animating like a key action scene or dancing scene, like from concept to final render, so to speak? Like how is the process in general terms?
So we're given initially a storyboard, a script, and we basically started planning from that. And as animators, every person has a different way of doing their planning process, but typically they start off with thumbnailing. So we basically jot a quick idea. This is how we test ideas, in terms of, okay, so there's a scene here, and this character is gonna do a little jump, and then a little happy dance or something like that. And so we would try to get to write down certain things that for us to consider, is like, what is the character thinking, what are the characters feeling within this motion and in between the motions, and if there's anything in the environment that they are affected by. We incorporate all that during the thumbnailing. Once we have all that, we start off to what we call blocking phase. And so the blocking is general strong poses that we refine and have communicated with our supervisors. Once those are approved, then we move on to basically animation, which is adding all the in-betweens and lip sync, and basically along the way we refine every step of the way of the aspect of the scene with the supervisor. The supervisor gets to check on it and says, okay, make sure you fix this, make sure you fix that, and then essentially it's ready for to continue down to the pipeline, which is rendering effects and all that. And we basically we're all given sequences, not all at once, but basically, scattered. Like you'll have like these scenes and these scenes, but put them all into one batch. And so each animator is responsible to complete a certain quota within every bi-weekly. And once it's all done, then we basically, we have we schedule out that, okay, we'll have this episode done by the end of the month, and that's pretty much how we go about it. And then we usually sometimes, like, as we go through the next episode and the next episode, we have a separate team that takes care of all the revisions on the backlogs. So when the client gets to take a look at the animation, they'll make some notes and they'll pass it down to the departments where there's a dedicated team where they're saying, okay, the producer doesn't like the way this scene feels. Can we make this a little bit better, or can we change these acting choices so that it'd be more suitable within the character?
All right. Well, as I can tell, it's a pretty long process with a lot of individual tasks that need their own, supervisors and all of that. It's also cool to know that there's a level of autonomy regarding how each individual animator, other people working in other areas have their own way of doing things. As you said, there are no very strict impositions.
There are positions on the animation team that, we go from juniors to seniors. So the juniors, they take care of most of the work. The seniors, they basically take care of the big acting sequences that require a stronger eye to carry out, to really sell, certain scenes. So all those are divided without the entire episodes. And occasionally we get those who want to take a crack at something more challenging, and so I would say that they would the work is evenly divided through among everybody. And so we try to at least the team tries to accommodate as much as they can within each individual to not only get a substantial amount of scenes to work on, but also just enough stuff that they can be challenged and or at least improve in some areas. And of course your relationship between you and your supervisor is also very important, because the more that you get to understand what your supervisor is looking for, the more you gauge your quality within your animation, and so that will grow.
So it's pretty cool that everything is leading to an objective, like a goal to achieve in the end, like call it a scene or an episode or a certain sequence. This needs a lot of coordination, and there are some people that make the important calls, and there's the others who are kind of just doing the responsibilities.
Right. And there's always enough room for people to try out different things. And even within the different departments, sometimes we have some animators that they want to go into, the other departments, like rigging and painting backgrounds and whatnot. I had a few friends who, bounce back and forth. And I loved going in through the other departments, especially for the backgrounds, because I think the show has incredibly well painted backgrounds for a TV show. And I thought it was probably one of the, outside of the animation, the visual aspect of the show is so well done. And I give a lot of credit to the background artists, because a lot of what we are given within the scene is already inspired us to make sure our animation has got to meet the same quality as the background. So we basically try to make it all look good within the same breath. And so whatever side of anybody that lacks and whatnot, the rest of the team tries to lift the weight as well. So we work as one unit, and we try to finish off of what we can and help in one end or inspire another. And of course, like like I said, we had, a culture where we're constantly looking at each other's work and asking questions, and like fangirling over each other's work. Like, I love how you did that scene. It's so well done. And we would, you know, they would give us some insight about how they approach the scene, and I love that kind of environment because it keeps everybody in a learning curve.
That's pretty cool. It's like in a soccer team, for example, each player like tends to learn from the other, where one's and strengths can feel the other's weaknesses, and that's what makes a team. Well, a team. It's a mix between strengths and weaknesses, and when everyone has the same objective, things tend to work out eventually, regardless of some of the challenges that could appear in the match, so to speak. I remember that when the show came out in 2015, I think, they said it was made on Flash, like Macromedia Flash. So I would like to know if that is true, or if not, like what software and tools did you use in general, at least from your position.
Well, for animators, we used primarily Toon Boom. It's been the animation standard even up until now. Actually, Toon Boom Toon Boom Harmony has been the staple for the 2D animation industry, and so I would say that if you're looking to learn a certain software, Toon Boom Harmony is a very good one. And but it has some drawbacks because I remember when we were working on the project, one thing that we always complained about was the way that Harmony handles big size scenes, and so it can get really time consuming sometimes. And so we would open up a scene and you'd be waiting for quite a while, and then you open it up and turns out it's not the right scene or something's wrong with the scenes, and you have to open up another version, and so you have to go there just waiting and waiting and waiting. Or you are in a scene where they have all these textures and it's just takes forever to animate because it slows down the entire software. Apparently the makers made it a single core processing software rather than a multi-core. I'm not sure on the technical side end, but from what I gathered and what I experienced was that it wasn't the easiest software to deal with. I personally, as a 3D animator, I prefer keeping myself with Maya compared to Harmony. But Harmony is still a very strong software. It has a lot of tool sets, and especially when it comes to visual effects and animation production altogether. So if a studio were to get Harmony and whatnot, they wouldn't have an issue with it, I suppose. And in terms of their production, they'd be able to handle production, as I saw in my past.
I heard about that piece of software when I was doing some research on those kind of topics. As you say, of course, it's like the standard of 2D animation, and any piece of software has its pros and cons. Software is always evolving along with the new skills required from the animators, or in every area in general. And the show looks great. I mean, as you said, the landscapes are, I think, one of the best out there in the animation genre, as well as the fluid movements of the characters, those realistic little details that make the show stand out from others in their same category, and even others that use the same piece of software, because in the end, what is more important is the artist's skill rather than the tools they use. I mean, the tools are important, of course. You have to give a painter a good brush, for example. So yeah, I mean, it's a mix between the tool and the artist's skill, in my opinion. And a last question I want to ask, because I think we haven't gotten very deep in that topic, is how did you work with the voice actors? Did you have to work together with them to get some scenes worked out?
No, we primarily don't work with the voice actors. Usually, when when pre-production starts, they get all the voice acting for the storyboards, After that, it's pretty much a done deal. If there's any notes that the production feels that they need a re-recording, they put a note for it, and then basically it gets sent out to the studio, to wherever. I think like maybe in California where they do all the extra stuff and whatnot. So we're Disney, so they would have all that handled out. But I would say that that's pretty much. Yeah, I would say no, not really.
I thought in my logic that there was some kind of interaction, like, I don't know, for lip syncing and all of that stuff. Well, in the end, it also makes sense because, I mean, the actor has to adapt to what the animator has done, and it's usually not the other way around. So yeah, that's a thing I didn't know. I thought there was like some kind of interaction at some point. Well, that's a pretty interesting piece of information. So a wonderful talk. You told us a lot about, well, how the show got made, a lot of things that I'm pretty sure aren't out there. I'm sure that the fans will appreciate all of this new information regarding the show's development process that you have, well, revealed to us. So, well, I thank you a lot for your time. Also, speaking on behalf of all the fans, well, thanks a lot for, well, being a part of this thing that we all know and love, the Lion Guard. It's a pretty fantastic job. You all did an amazing job. So, well, I must congratulate you and also thank you for it. It's pretty amazing. And well, if you wanna like talk about what you're doing currently, what projects are you working on, like personally, do you have any social media you would like to share here? And I will put it in the description, of course.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Thank you for having me here. It's been a pleasure. It was great meeting you, and to the fans, we love you guys. We love the show. We love working on it. And in terms of for me to share, in terms of what I'm doing right now, I'm set to be working on a studio at Behavioral in next week. So I'll be working on the game Dead by Daylight. So this is my foot in the door right now to get into. Well, I mean, like Spyro was the first game I got to work on, but now this is sort of like, knees deep now in terms of the video game industry. So it's very exciting, and I'm here. Can't wait to see what my journey is going to be going up next. For my socials, people can find me up on Twitter, OmniVega, at OmniVega. And for my website, you can also visit my website at www.sekudesign.com. And yeah, that's pretty much where you can find me.
All right, thanks a lot, man. I'm gonna put
Thank you.
Vega's links in the description so you guys can check out his stuff, his social media. Thanks again for your time, for accepting this interview. I had a lot of fun.
Me too. Pleasure was all mine.
Thanks, man. So I'll see you guys in the next episode of the show. You can put in the comments what kind of guests we should bring in to the next episode. So, well, until then, I'll see you next time, guys.